Hi, Romesh Kibastu here, Editor-in-Chief SightsIn Plus. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Please to subscribe this for the HR news, the HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs. Today, I'm extremely delighted to have Mr. Sunit Sinha. Sunit is Head People, Performance and Culture at KPMG in India. Welcome, Sunit. How are you today?
Hi, Ramesh. Good evening. I'm good. Looking forward to chatting with you and addressing some of the questions you may have.
Sunit, I was going through profile, and I think you have joined the KPMG in 2021, and earlier you have the long association with Accenture and Mercer. So, how you started with the KPMG, and what are the new initiatives you have taken when you joined the KPMG in HR department, and have you been able to meet your expectations in last 2 years?
Interesting question. Makes me reflect about going and so to be honest, if you look at my profile, this is the first time I'm doing an HR leadership role or a CHR role, if I may. While I do have an HR background in terms of academics, passed out of XLRI in 1998, but except for a very brief period of about 1 year in my first role at Arthur Andersen, I've always been client facing and when consulting in what I would broadly describe the people and organization transformation space. So yeah, it was interesting when I think towards the end of my stint at Accenture, I started thinking about what should I do next, and I thought continue to do people transformation consulting was great, but I should do something else. I was anyway, so it came as a good opportunity as someone convinced me that while I've done consulting on with clients on people related org related aspects, maybe there's a chance opportunity to apply the same thing to a consulting organization. So the reason when I thought about it, when I joined, and I joined in January of 2021, so just finished over 2 years in this role. One of the things I did say that it'd be exciting for me to do this if there is a clear transformation agenda that we want to create, and that's at least the sense I got, and not just because of how KPMG is known and what we wanted to do, and I can talk more in detail about it as a follow up. But also, I think we've been through, we've been through probably the biggest disruption that we've seen in decades because of not a man-made event, but because of a natural event, which was the pandemic, and that led to one challenges around well-being, health of people, and all the other impacts that we had. But it also led to the challenge of 2020 was a very tough year, and then you had the hockey stick effect, which we continue to see. So 2021 and 22 were seen with amazing amounts of demand. In my 25 years of work in the consulting industry, I've never seen order books as strong as they've been. And at the same time, we went through the whole challenge of the great resignation or the great reset or the reshuffle, where we saw so many people leave and had to hire. So today, if I think about and I'm sure it's it's the same in other firms in our industry as well. There are so many people who actually joined during the stage where we were in the pandemic and we were working remotely, who only have now started coming into a KPMG office or starting to work from client sides, because for most of 2020 and 21, it was very patchy. I mean, you know how with the different waves it was. So the motivation was to really apply some of the principles of transforming the people architecture, the people ecosystem, or what I used to do for clients in an industry which is very dear to me, consulting. It's been interesting. I don't know whether I can really blow my own trumpet and say whether it's been good, bad, or ugly. All I can say is that there are 2 or 3 principles that I started with. One, it has to be a transformative agenda. 2, in my mind, given the fact that every business is a people business and talent is core to all industries and types of organizations, but however, consulting, professional services, it's always been the case. It's not that today it's important. It was important 25 years ago when I started my career, and it has become even more important. So the simple mantra or vision for a robust HR function in ecosystem for a professional services firm like ours is just two things. One, enhance ease of working of people, and enhance ease of doing business of leaders. So literally, we truly, I'd say that if as long as HR can just do that, we don't need to over-engineer, we don't need to make things too complex. So whatever initiatives we've done, the whole idea has been simplify, make things easy to use for people, use automation technology, allow self-service, and also focus on things that will make people stick and feel more engaged. So it was a challenge when we were all virtual. Now we're in a more of a hybrid mode. But I think being a client-facing business, we can't be 100% remote all the time. So we've started, while we continue to give people flexibility. But one of the things has been that we also need to have people work together, because as research is showing that long-term productivity starts going down, where if you are not having the human connect to especially do complex problem solving, the coaching and mentoring conversations, team building activities. I mean, for that you do need to meet in person, and that's how we do it. So, it's not, don't want to get into a monologue, but I would say if I reflect back, 2 years have been extremely busy. Sometimes when I talk to some of my own team or some of the leaders in the firm, they say, "Oh, Sunit, you've only been here 2 years. It seems longer." I guess it's because there's been a lot happening. So I myself sometimes feel that I've been here far longer, maybe half a decade, because there's just been tremendous amounts of action. I mean, just one statistic I'll give you. And if I look at, because I KPMG India, and I also have oversight over our KPMG Global Services Organization. I think between the two organizations, I think from the time when I got onboarded to now, I think our headcount has grown by 60 to 70%. So in the middle of all this, we've been growing. Good business has been good,
After the recall
and continues to
of
be
two
strong. So
years,
that's what we had to navigate.
I'm saying,
Sorry.
so after the recall of the 2 years, so now if we come to the current context, so the world is going through some of the layoffs, and we also see a lot of buzzwords right now, like quiet quitting, like moonlighting, like career cushioning. So in such a scenario, how do you see the future of work?
I'm actually, so this future of work, and I love chatting about it. As a consultant, I used to go and talk about it. Consultants write a lot of books about it, and now today, when I'm in an internal role in a consulting firm, I believe one of the things that I feel firms like ours probably are at the cutting edge of innovating what that future of work is. And it's not somewhere in the distant future, Ramesh. A lot of it is already happening as we speak. Here's my 2 or 3 simple points on what this means. One is that, and again, these are some are slightly larger issues which may take some more time to play out, and some are more tactical issues which are happening in the here and now. One is, and you look at it from 3 perspectives. One is, how is the nature of work itself changing? And there I would say that the nature of work is very clear. It's not human or machine, because technology tends to be the underlying theme when you talk about this future of work. It's human and machine. There are things that machines are better at. Those things will have to be done by them. There are things that, even with all the buzz around Chatgpt and whatnot, everything is still artificial intelligence. We don't have an artificial general intelligence where you literally can mimic what a human can do. So there will still remain human only activities. Those are the mostly creative problem solving, coaching, ideation, and people can argue that Chat GPT or other AI/ML programs are writing poems, but remember, someone programmed it to write a poem. You still needed a human to write the algorithm. And then there's the middle, which is the human and machine activities where you're collaborating. So I think that's what is happening, and you see it in all spheres. Whether you're someone working in an office, you're an operator in a plant, or you are running you're working in an oil rig operation. The amount of time we are collaborating with an intelligent machine, and that includes this, by the way. This smartphone I'm holding in my hand, 52 years ago, or 53, 54 years ago, when Neil Armstrong and the astronauts went on the moon, that Saturn V rocket and the Apollo spacecraft had less computing power than this smartphone. So each of us have an intelligent machine. We're collaborating with this all the time, right? So that's the future of work, human-machine collaboration. However, what you need to then see is therefore, how do you redefine or reimagine your workforce? So in my mind, more and more, the whole element of it's your people are not just people who work for you full time. It's also people who do gig, people who work with your ecosystem partners, suppliers, vendors, alliance partners, including your non-carbon based intelligent machine workforce. Right? Sometimes people say, right, that art mimics reality or even predates it. One of my favorite science fiction movies is Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, came in 2014. There was a crew over there. It had 5 humans and 2 machines. I personally feel sometime in our lifetime, Ramesh, we'll have to figure out how to manage the non-human part of our workforce. And finally, I think the future of work is about reimagining careers. Look, the model of my career or job means going to a place, an office, a factory, where I go for 40 years. That model went away a long time back. My generation, our generation, lived in a model where you had the same career broadly, but you worked in different organizations. I believe that's a very industrialized concept of careers that is going to get deconstructed, and we'll have portfolio careers. More and more people will sometimes work full time, they'll sometimes work part time, they'll do gig, they'll do volunteering, and potentially you may end up not just being an HR professional or a marketing professional or an industrial engineer. You may end up doing 3-4 careers in a working span of 50 to 60 years. Because with the way people are continuing to be active, and the WHO, I'm told, has now declared that you are middle-aged till 65, right? So therefore, and around the world, people are working for far longer. I guess it's a good thing to have portfolio careers. So that's the future of work. The future of work is not just about technology. The future of work is about how the work will happen, how you will have to think about the workforce differently as an organization, and most importantly, I think the earlier models of loyalty and the workplace and a career being about moving from one company to the other, that will get deconstructed. Not that there will not be people who work in that model. Don't get me wrong, Ramesh. But in the workforce, more and more people are probably going to be working. And I see this. I see this in surveys that not just our organization, many organizations do. But today, people are not joining organizations saying that I'm here for 10 years. They're saying I'm here till I'm learning and I'm gaining, and then I'm off to the next. So the thing is, organizations will have to change and meet where the workforce is. I don't think the workforce is changing because they have many options, despite all the headwinds, Ramesh, of tech layoffs, etc., that we're seeing. I personally feel that today there's a lot of resilience and people have far more opportunities than existed a couple of decades ago. Now, obviously, this is assuming that we don't get another black swan event like a pandemic or something geopolitical, something. I mean, those events are not in our control anyway. But short of that, I think we will need to have organizations which need to move away from the concept of you are here forever, and that's it. So while and you also mentioned moonlighting. While personally, I believe, look, if you're part of the gig workforce, then obviously you can work with multiple organizations. But if I work with a organization, then I'm not very sure, and I know it's a little bit of a controversial topic, whether you can justify on any grounds the fact that I'm also working full time and committing to other organizations. So those are some of my thoughts on future of work and some of the concepts that you talked about, Romesh.
You also talked about the Chat GPT. Now, so have you started the use of Chat GPT in HR, and how do you find the best use of Chat GPT in HR? Second, the supplement would be you also talked about the human and machine. So how you are able to make the human values in the digital world at KPMG?
Good question. So ChatGPT, tell you personally, I've started playing around with it a bit. So I went in and checked out the free account that they have. Here's the thing. So we, as part of what we're trying to transform, in terms of our what we call people experience, we are anyway using, and we plan to use chatbots very actively, and intelligent chatbots, not just something which answers from a preset, but chatbots which get smarter as you keep, and we are doing some pilots around that. And potentially ChatGPT can help us do more of that, because see, one of the things that, part of the simplification and the ease of working that I talked about, Ramesh, at this point of time, across the firm, there are 17 different automation projects that we're running in the HR space. The reason we're doing that is because the current workforce that we have, our average age in KPMG is 28. They need human touch, but that human touch is the coaching and mentoring and the culture building that you need with your leaders within your teams. But for transactions, for queries, self-service. So we're trying to drive a way of working through automation, where something like ChatGPT will definitely. I don't have a specific use case for it, but I do see that helping us drive better experience, people experience, where we can potentially, a lot of things which are transactional, where you today have to pick up a phone or go and ask someone to look at a policy and give you an answer. That all that information we can put in the hands of people directly, which therefore eases their work, because then their dependency on waiting for sending a mail or calling a help desk goes away. That's where I think, from an HR perspective, something like a ChatGPT will help, because it's taking the element of AI and the element of how intelligent that chatbot is, or that query management is, to the next level. Now, again, it's still a very early concept, and I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in technology, but I see huge number of applications of that. Which then what does, Ramesh, is that it also, and that's one thing I want to make a point, is it also puts the onus on, therefore, HR professionals, HR leaders, HR teams, to therefore say that, look, we are not busy with the transactions, so therefore, what's the value add we are doing? What are the insights we're bringing in? Are we therefore doing the high touch activities which are more important? Because I believe in this extremely digitized world where technology is continuing to disrupt us, people will still need that human connect. That's not going to go away. Ultimately, look, sociologists will tell you, psychologists, we are social animals. Otherwise, we are more like, I mean, I don't want to make a comparison, but I mean, we are more like, animals who, and this sociology will tell you, because all our behaviors, all our learning is through social mimicry and in through interaction. So that's not going to go away. I mean, basic human nature will not change. Therefore, that's what I believe, and therefore, HR teams will have to invest more in preparing themselves as well as people leaders in how to have more effective, meaningful conversations. Because today, that's the other challenge that's happening. As work is getting more digitized, learning is getting more democratized, hyper personalized learning is what people want. People want to work where they feel meaningful in what they're doing. And one of the things we've done is we recently rolled out something, and because you asked about some of the new things at KPMG, we rolled out a collective EVP, employee value proposition, which of course was created globally, but now it's rolling it out in each member firm, each in geography. And one of the things about one of the five pillars is, one of the pillars is come as you are. So, including everyone. Then there's thrive with us. There is doing work that matters. So all of it is around building purpose and that personal connect to what the organization wants. Today, young people are asking, what is your view on social impact? What is your view on how are you as a corporate citizen? Are you working on or are you at least doing advocacy on some of the key things that matter in terms of human rights or women's rights, inclusion, climate action? So I think if today it's a bold new world, and HR functions have to help organizations and leaders take a stand on these issues, because people today, social media, people watch what you say, people watch the opinions that you give out over there. So that's where I think we need to use technology to automate, simplify, and focus on these issues which really matter to people.
So I think great inputs on human touch and technology. So, Sunit, if we look at the 2023, according to a lot of reports and conversations, the CHROs, the employee engagement and employee experience, that is the biggest challenge for the HR leaders. So at KPMG, how do you keep engaging your employees and how you are retaining them?
So two, three things. I mean, firstly, I would say, in our industry, in a firm like ours, while HR can enable and create the right infrastructure and give the right nudge, ultimately we need to make sure that each people leader, each people manager is empowered to do the right thing. So we've tried to focus a lot on driving that empowerment down. And in our case, it's not just partners, directors, but I would say the very critical layer is what I would call the manager, associate director, the middle management in a way, who are the people who manage most of our teams. So a lot of learning inputs and a lot of, at least we're trying to drive that appreciation of how they need to therefore have effective conversations, and conversations not at the end of the year, but during the entire year. So that's one of the things. Second is, and as we speak, we're in the middle of we're celebrating for the first time in our 30 years an entire week. We call it a well-being week, and our well-being definition is on 6 dimensions. It's physical well-being, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and financial. And the reason we're doing it, and we got our leaders to talk about it, we're getting experts to talk about it, is because we're saying that look, a productive workforce and a workforce which believes that in all these 6 dimensions and the organization cares for you is an engaged workforce. So it's obviously it is about relevant work. It's about being treated with respect, but it's also about giving a clear message and showing actions of what we're doing. So simple thing, we announced sick leave. It's a simple thing. Sick leave. Why do we call it sick leave? It's actually wellness leave. We're going to make a policy change around that. So some large actions, some simple actions we're doing, Romesh, to keep people engaged. The other thing that we've invested very heavily in learning technology and democratization. So we were on a platform like LinkedIn Learning. We've launched Degree. It's been launched in other parts of KPMG as well, but in KPMG India, we've launched Degree recently. Now Degree as a learning experience platform. It opens up the element of you can learn anytime, anywhere, and hyper personalize it. Obviously, we will still do specific learning or training programs for the need of a particular service line or a level. But this is open to everyone. You can access it, and you can access all the content that's over there. So I would say there are 3-4 things that we're trying to do to keep people engaged. Ultimately, if you ask me, Romesh, it's about ultimately the tone at the top. What are our leaders saying and doing? So there's also a very strong emphasis on driving a very clear culture around certain pillars that we have from a EVP perspective, from a values perspective. And the reason we've timed it to give it a push right now, so this is also coinciding with us moving to a what I would call a sustainable or sustained hybrid model, where we are in offices, but at the same time people have flexibility. And according to the need of a particular role or a business or an individual, we're allowing that flexibility to people. You come into office where you need to, you come into office on the days your teams come into, but at the same, and you travel when you need to travel, you work remotely when you need to work remotely. So a lot of things happening, which is why I told you that I sometimes I wonder where these 2 years have gone.
Sunit, now we are also very close to March when we celebrate our women leaders. So, what are the initiatives you have taken for the, the diversity, equity, and inclusion part, and to minimize the gender gap at the KPMG?
So of course, the ID agenda, as you know, Romesh, it incorporates a lot of dimensions. But since we are close to the International Women's Day and Women's Week, I think let's talk about gender. 2 or 3 things that we've done is one is that we're very clearly driving metrics. Important, what gets measured gets done. Very clearly driving a certain a very clear view that, look, it's not just about overall diversity, it has to be the right representation at all levels. Because while at entry levels up to a certain level, we have a very healthy ratio at overall percentage is 41% for the firm, but it tends to drop off. So we are taking some active interventions when we're looking at growth of women leaders at specific inflection points where we see the ratios drop. Now, those could be in terms of what support we need. How do we make sure that, just a simple thing like women who go away to start families on maternity leave, how well are we integrating them back? Right, that as one, because then you can't just assume that what she was before she can come back and just, so we need to give them some support. Secondly, we have a very active returning women's program, which is both for our alumni as well as for people who have taken a break in their full-time careers and want to reintegrate back, come back to a full-time career option. We're driving that agenda as well. Third, I would say is that I co-chair the ID council of the firm. I mean, we are very clear that, and we've taken some very ambitious goals that we want to be 50-50 across the pyramid in the next 3 years. Now, today we are not there yet, right? As I said, 41% overall, obviously it varies, but we I think on that metric, I carried in my performance scorecard. A lot of the business leaders carried in their performance scorecards. It's very clear. It's something, because end of the day, we have to, in my mind, put metrics around this. I think the other aspect also, which is very important, is also investing on some level of skill building and learning for women leaders at critical stage. So we've sent specifically at the mid-management level, we sent some of our leaders out for some programs which are specifically focused on what are some things that they need to do to make sure that they are, they're investing in the right, building the right relationships, the right networks, mentors, sponsors in the organization. Because often what's happened in research shows, it's not that the capability or merit, obviously, that's the touchstone, irrespective of whether you have a male candidate or a woman candidate. But often the women candidates tend to lose out because they don't invest time in some of these softer aspects. And we realized that it was because we had to help enable them and give them that platform. And we've done that. So multiple things. I mean, I can go on and on, but I just wanted to give you a highlight of some of the things we're doing. It's a journey, Ramesh. I wouldn't say we've solved it. And maybe 6 months later or a year later, we'll have to do a new set of initiatives. So it's continuous. But the good news is that this is getting visibility at the highest levels of the firm, both globally and at an India level.
So my next question is for the people, those who are looking the job, and especially in KPMG. So what is the hiring plans for 2023? In 2022, I have seen the robust hiring there. So what is the plan for the 2023?
So look, I know, I mean, in fact, recently I was quoted where there was some news on some action, etc., on jobs, etc. But as far as we are concerned, we continue to have robust plans because our pipeline, our demand pipeline is extremely healthy. Now, obviously, our strategy to hire more from campus will continue. Now, without getting into specific numbers, because we're in actually that full planning cycle for our next financial year, at the same while there may be areas of business where we'll see hyper growth. There may be areas of business where we'll see normal growth, but overall the outlook is positive, if you ask me. And specifically in technology areas, in some of the niche skill areas on data science, cloud, cybersecurity, ESG, those continue to be the areas where we will be focused on the most, apart from the other hiring that we do anyways.
So what are your hobbies? What do you do in your spare time?
So in my spare time, I don't do anything related to HR at all. I mean, 2-3 things is there on my LinkedIn profile. I'm a little bit of a enthusiast on space. So I'm a volunteer member of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I'm very fascinated by space research, astrophysics, uh, uh, and the things like the James Webb Telescope and how we're finding newer planets and techno signatures of intelligent life out there. That's one very serious hobby that I have. The second one is I have a background in history and geopolitics, so I still love to read and write about it. I write a blog from time to time on those subjects. And yeah, I mean, those are two fairly serious hobbies, slightly esoteric ones, but I follow them seriously. But on a lighter side, I'm a collector of single malts and craft gins.
So still I have 1 or 2 minutes. So would you like to share anything which you want to share and we didn't discuss here? Any final comments?
Well, what can I say? I mean, I think well, one comment is that it's a milestone year for us in KPMG India. We're in our 30th year, so maybe and we believe that it's so we'll be doing some uh, engagement activities both with, of course, our current people and also our alumni. We have a fairly strong alumni network in the country, several thousand. I don't remember the exact number because we've been here 30 years. So I think that's and in that context, I think you we'll also be driving a lot of employee initiatives, employee engagement initiatives. The other thing I'll say is, and again you'll see us a lot more activity on that. You know, the ESG as an agenda for KPMG, both in India and globally, is very important. You may have seen the news. We launched, we had an ESG conclave on Tuesday, and there's a platform that we've created for ESG awards. The reason I'm talking about ESG from a people perspective is that think of the S of ESG, which is social. It's all about people, your people, but also the people ecosystem that you impact. You know, the people you work with. And I believe that from a HR perspective, whether in our industry or any other industry, the S will become something where HR functions also will have to start taking ownership of it, because it's all about the inclusion. It's all about giving people fair compensation. It's all about diversity. And then having what is your responsibility as a good corporate citizen in the wider society. So I think so. I'm very excited about that agenda. At KPMG, we have a program called Impact Globally, and in India also, where we talk about planet, people, and prosperity. I would
Right.
say people
Right.
is probably the most important element over there.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation and being the part of this.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thanks. Lovely catching up with you.